Hello and welcome everyone. We Weeb online and today I'm gonna continue the story What if Naruto went back to his Genin body part 2. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Naruto had anticipated that the walk to Suna would be an opportunity for him to rest. Maybe he was a complete moron. "Hand over your money," shouted the leader, brandishing a dagger at Naruto. "I don't have any money," Naruto admitted, checking behind him to ensure Hinata was still present. She was, and she was terrified. From some ordinary bandits who didn't appear to be shinobi. He didn't bother trying to make amends with the girl who stood up to pain. His head was already throbbing. "Get him," yelled one of the bandits as they all charged forward. Naruto moved forward, kicking the nearest robber in the face before drawing a kunai and blocking a stab to the side. A kick to the chest came out of nowhere and threw him back. "Oh," he murmured as he prepared to perform the shadow clone jutsu, just as a blur passed him by. "Hinata," he inquired, "how dare you damage my Naruto?" "Hayava," yelled the girl in question as she grabbed the nearest robber, flipped him over her head, slapped him into another bandit, then flipped over and kicked a third bandit in the face. She then lifted the first bandit and spun him like a bow staff over her head before slamming another bandit. Naruto stood there watching as the shy, meek girl who fainted anytime she discovered they were breathing the same air beat each bandit to death with their companion. She threw the mutilated body she'd been holding to the side and turned to Naruto, fully unaware of the blood on her. "How?" he inquired. "I've been concealing my full power," Hinata explained simply. "I am Hemura's reincarnation." Naruto nodded, having grown tired of questioning things. He didn't really comprehend the concept of reincarnation, but he had a feeling that wasn't how it worked. All right, that was impressive. Hinata's face flushed blazing red. "Naruto commended me," she stumbled, foaming at the mouth. Naruto exhaled a sigh. "I figured so." Divided by, Sasuke focused his meditation on Shikamaru's chakra. He felt a sensation of astonishment and uncertainty, which seemed to be the Genjutsu's default emotion, although it was annoyingly low-key. Sakura said, "Sasuke." Then there was the minor irritation. "Yes, Sakura," he inquired. "How do you intend to retaliate against Naruto?" Binket caught Sasuke's eye. "I don't." Sakura's eyes blinked. "What's the harm? I have more important things to accomplish than attack him." Sakura locked her gaze on him. Like what?" Sasuke blinked open his eyes and looked at the girl. Of course, she wasn't meditating. She was fixed on him. "My clan, my brother." "Oh, but those are insignificant in comparison to one-upping Naruto." Sasuke felt a similar surge of rage, but it quickly subsided. "Can we just meditate, Sakura?" he thought. "I'm amassing power." "Really?" Sakura inquired. "Sure, and it'll also help if you meditate." The Kunoichi quickly assumed the lotus pose, so Sasuke resumed his meditation, and everything returned to normal. A tremendous explosion rocked the training ground they were sitting in the midst of Konoha. "Huh, you thought Sasuke was going to get a break." Divided by, as snakes burst through the Hokage building, Sasuke and Sakura landed on the roof of a neighboring apartment complex. "Orochimaru," Sasuke screamed, clutching his neck to relieve the phantom anguish of the curse mark. "You called," sang a voice that sounded exactly like Orochimaru's. The two genin turned to face him. Sasuke's mouth dropped open. Orochimaru was dressed in a black corset that exposed his chest, black pantyhose that exposed an uncomfortably huge bulge, fingerless leather gloves, and stockings held up by a garter belt. He was dressed in 10-inch heels and fingerless gloves. Everything was in leather. His hair was in an absurd afro, and his eyeliner and blood-red lipstick could only be characterized as too much. "Give me your body," said the snake man in a tone that was clearly different from how he'd expressed his desire for Sasuke's body in the actual world. Sakura jumped in front of Sasuke before he could answer. "No," she yelled. "You won't be able to seduce Sasuke. He's mine." Sasuke fixed his gaze on the girl's back. If he'd bothered to pick it up after the first time, his jaw would have dropped. "No," yelled Orochimaru. "I have his ass." Sasuke spun around and began sprinting as fast as he could, attempting to put as much distance between himself and whatever was going on as possible. He genuinely considered simply going. Shikamaru be damned. He heard a voice whisper in his ear as he jumped off a building and tumbled into an alley. "Sasuke Kaiyan." He looked behind him against his better judgment. Orochimaru stood a foot behind him, eyes closed, lips pursed for a kiss. Screaming, Sasuke rolled to the side. Orochimaru didn't stop and crashed into a wall. Sasuke bolted in the other direction of the colossal snakes. The presence of the third Hokage was required. Sure, Orochimaru had killed him in the actual world, but Sasuke was willing to take that chance. A sound ninja appeared out of nowhere, intent on beheading him. Sasuke dodged beneath the blade, activating his Sharingan as he did so, and slashed at the man's knees before resuming his speed. "Come back, beautiful Sasuke." Orochimaru's cry resonated throughout Konoha. While deactivating his Sharingan, Sasuke ignored it. The village was in disarray. Ninjas were engaged in large-scale conflicts everywhere he went, inflicting wanton damage and obliterating everything in sight. Konoha residents. Sasuke raised his head. Was that? I am Uzumaki Naruto. Sasuke initially assumed he was just screaming incredibly loudly before realizing it was the sound of thousands of clones screaming from the rooftops. You do not deserve my sympathy, yelled the clones. That sentence was the biggest disparity since Sasuke came, which indicated a lot about how well Sasuke understood Naruto. But if you ask my forgiveness, I will save you. Sasuke dove into a roll reflexively as Orochimaru swooped past his head. The Sannin came to a halt and swung around, shooting out his arm, which grew numerous snakes. Sasuke drew Kusanagi from his sheath and began dancing around the onslaught, deflecting any snakes that came too close. While doing so, he secretly made a few hand seals. Unfortunately, the onslaught proved too much for him, and he was soon entangled by the numerous snakes. Orochimaru dashed ahead of him. Give me your body, he urged, seemingly in an attempt to be alluring. Sasuke had been living with him for 3 years. He nearly perished while practicing with him. He had resisted drug enhancement recommendations because he was disgusted with his tactics. But he had kept that distaste hidden. He had learned to mask all of his feelings in his presence and to pretend that his deeds did not disgust him. He'd seen dissections and met folks who were just going to die with a blank expression. He'd turned icy. Sasuke shouted like a child and sprayed fire all over Orochimaru's face. He discovered Shikamaru at that very moment. Divided by, speak English, you troublesome. Shikamaru came to a halt when he realized he was in the middle of a hospital. Everyone was staring at him with interest. Hello, he said. Dare we? Temari inquired. Everyone insisted on using words I didn't understand. And the culture was very different. All okay, Temari said, her head cocked. And how about you, Sasuke? Shikamaru cast a glance towards the Uchiha, who was stooped over Naruto's gurney. I need another break, stated Sasuke. Would you like to tell us what happened? Shikamaru inquired. No, is this too much for you? Sakura inquired, plainly concerned about his well-being. Sasuke stood up after taking several deep breaths. Shikamaru noticed that he appeared a touch green. No, I'm all right, he replied. I just need a second. Ino nodded and rested her hand on his shoulder. They both gazed at one another with a sense of mutual agony. Shikamaru chose not to whine about the language barrier when it could be much worse. Divided by, the journey through the desert was long and difficult, but Naruto and Hinata ultimately arrived at the village hidden in the sand. As they approached the gates, Naruto observed a lone man standing in front of them, staring at him. Is that? Hinata inquired. Gaara said, hello, I've been waiting for you. Naruto examined his fellow Jinchuriki before sighing. I'm surprised, but I expected to be startled, so it doesn't count. So, Gaara, Naruto replied, trailing his fellow Jinchuriki. Do you have anything you'd like to tell me? All right, Gaara said. Thanks to you, I've finally gained the courage to express my genuine personality to the world without embarrassment. Naruto gave a nod. Yes, but anything else you want to tell me? Gaara's long red hair flew through the air as she whirled around. Naruto made every effort not to glance at the D-cup creatures, which seemed to swing independently with brains of their own at every slightest movement. No, the bombshell who had taken Gaara's place said. It was strange because her voice hadn't changed. So, Naruto explained, I had no idea. You were a girl. I tried hiding it because insert reason here. What? Naruto inquired. I just needed to insert reason here. Naruto fixed his gaze. I'm at a loss. Look, it doesn't matter why I was pretending to be a male. We can fuck now and it'll still be heterosexual. Naruto stepped back. Hinata, who'd been clinging to his arm, her fainting spells clearly forgotten, stared at Gaara. He's mine, declared the Hyuga heiress. No, I adore him. I'm his biggest admirer. A huge fangirl, exclaimed a voice. Naruto went straight to the source, and then he blinked. Some random guy with the most forgettable face he'd ever seen scoffed at Gaara. You're just a hysterical fangirl. No, I'm not, exclaimed Gaara. Just because you don't believe Academy Naruto can solo a dozen Jonin and Land of Waves arc Naruto can crush your favorite doesn't make it any less true. He readily scales to multi-continental and 7 times quicker than the speed of light. Nuh-uh, the man replied. All you want to do is suck his dick. Yes, I do, Gaara replied. However, that's beside the point. Naruto ignored them both and continued walking. Divided by, Sasuke opened his eyes, ready to jump out of the genjutsu if something went wrong. Sakura addressed him as Sasuke-kun. You're okay. He examined the phony version of his acquaintance. Yes, he responded as he sat up. What occurred? Naruto fought off Orochimaru. Sasuke let out a sigh of relief. But not before Orochimaru hikai'd you. Sasuke felt the familiar sting of the cursed mark at that moment. He clutched his neck. That is a thing. What are we going to do about it? Nothing, he explained. It makes no difference. Not that, Naruto, he's outgrown his breeches. Well done, Sasuke said. Sakura was dumbfounded. I'm going home, Sasuke replied, standing up and looking around. Konoha was a shambles. It was similar to the devastation caused by the Konoha crush. Buildings had holes in them, streets that appeared to have erupted from within, the occasional earthen wall. There are dead bodies. In fact, Sakura stated, your flat was demolished when Naruto scooped up the building and rammed it into Orochimaru. You're now homeless, just like Naruto. Naruto was never destitute, remarked Sasuke. He was, Sakura confirmed. And now you're on the street. Sasuke sighed. Well, that's fine. I'll just find another place to meditate. Divided by. At the moment, Ino was dissatisfied. And there was only one obvious reason for it. The woman across the table from her. What happened to you? She inquired of the phony Sakura she'd just met. I stopped being a ninja. Ino's eyes blinked. May I inquire as to why? I discovered my actual calling, and I am. Can we keep it PG-13? She inquired. Okay, I, Sakura Haruno, am not a ninja. I am Naruto's committed. When he wants to on me, I say yes. Even if he wants to on me, I say yes. How do you do it with your mouth? Never mind how I'm doing it. No matter what degenerate thing he desires, I must acquiesce. For he is my master, who showed me the folly of thinking I was anything more than. Ino's eyes blinked. I assumed you liked Sasuke. Who? Sakura inquired. Oh yes, Ino remarked, recalling the last Uchiha's current state. Don't worry, I was thinking of someone else. You should give it a shot. No, that beast is going to kill me. No, it won't, Sakura replied. Look, I understand. I hesitated as well. I didn't believe I'd like it, and I even pushed back, but I quickly discovered how wrong I was. Ino locked his gaze on the girl, and it felt great when he grabbed his and so hard that I all over the Hokage's desk. How does it not kill you? Inquired Ino. Wait, you said the Hokage's desk. I'm not sure why you're making such a big deal out of it. The waiter arrived at that same moment. May I have your money? Oh, I'll get it, Sakura responded, reaching down. What are you doing? Ino inquired, her vision obscured by the table. Sakura made a few faces, some of struggle, some of delight, before there was a loud popping sound. She took out a wet handbag the size of her head. Ino looked at the bag before turning to gaze at the phony Sakura. She then stood up. I appreciate the dinner, she said robotically. I have to leave. She grumbled to herself as she walked away. I made a mistake by leaving the house. Divided by. Kakashi went around Konoha's replica. It was unnerving how real everything felt. The community was precisely as it had been when he originally arrived with his students. He simply prayed that whatever absurdity he encountered in this world would be bearable. A eerily familiar voice cried out to him, Kakashi. The ghost turned around and glared at the copy ninja. Kushina gave him a beautiful grin. Then she stomped on the boy in front of her. Before recognizing it was Naruto, Kakashi glanced at the thin, battered youngster fighting to get up. This brat had the guts to request that I feed him, she exclaimed. Do you believe it? Kakashi's gaze remained fixed. Anyway, take him and I don't really care, Kushina said, gently grabbing the hand of a redhead girl standing next to her. I have to take my lovely little Mary to finish her training, the redhead said as she walked away. Kakashi stared for a moment before asking a question. What kind of name is Mary? Kakashi asked, staring at the horror in front of him. Her hair was bright red, not as crimson as Kushina's, red like magma, with yellow dots that seemed to move from one location to another. If he looked at her for too long, he began to believe she had molten rock on her scalp. Her eyes were a bright blue. They were now green. They had turned red. They were now a vortex of brilliant hues spinning about. They were now the Sharingan. They were once again blue. She was dressed in a gleaming gold ball gown laced with tinsel that jingled in the breeze. The sole clue that she was a ninja was a kunai pack on her belt, which was countered by the ruby necklace, peacock feathers sprouting out of her back, and silver tiara. He turned to face the other students in the classroom. Sasuke was going about his business as usual, but Sakura was draped over him, jabbering. Naruto was silently sitting in a corner. Higa Hinata sat next to him, motionless, and there appeared to be a white automaton standing at attention in the back of the class, acting as a sixth body but doing nothing. Well, hello Mary, he said. Kakashi-chan. Wailed the beast. You know I don't appreciate being called that. Kakashi sighed as he remembered the drivel in her dossier. Mary and Susanna Rocketer rose to Gilligan Elizabeth Samuel Irisessa Milkov Great Amazing Namikaze, says one. The young lady frowned. No, just a combination of my first and second names. Kakashi gave a blink. Mary Sue, he asked, a shiver running down his spine, as if the anguish of millions had only just reached him. Exactly. Kakashi blinked before turning to face the rest of the students. Team 7 will meet on the roof. Kakashi began the introductions after the three were safely on the roof. Mary's dossier was loaded with thoughtless adulation from her teachers for her Rookie of the Year placement. He needed to understand who she was as a person. Sakura's introduction was basically the same as before, with one slight change. I despise Naruto, that sobbing idiot. Kakashi gave a blink. Sasuke's was the same, but I like a few things, he said to Mary Sue. Kakashi began to perspire. He then stared at Mary Sue with dread in his eyes. I adore the village, she declared. I also like practically everything in it. Almost, Kakashi inquired. I despise Naruto, the demon spawn, she declared. All right, Kakashi responded, feeling terrible for this Genjutsu Naruto. He resisted mentioning that she was born from the same place as her brother. My hobbies include training, sparring, reading, writing, electronic engineering, hiking, fishing, dog training, cat training, backpacking, camping, hunting, refinishing furniture, shopping, driving cars, flower arranging, bicycling, bird watching, antiquing, drawing, painting, designing toys, designing clothes, embroidery, weaving carpets, weaving tapestries, pottery, wood carving, beekeeping, learning languages, makeup, cosplay, singing, geocaching, taking walks, mending clocks, making candles, constructing sandcastles, making wine, interior design, stand-up comedy, photography, calligraphy, carpentry, archery, and with that we shift to the sports part. Kite flying, meditation, horseback riding, volleyball, basketball, football, racing, rugby, swimming, boxing, tennis, ping pong, canoeing, skating, ice skating, and billiards. I also play piano, guitar, trombone, electric guitar, drums, xylophone, and triangle. What is a car? Kakashi asked, his face blank. And my dream. Mary Sue stood up and jumped several feet in the air, flinging her arms high. The sun reflected off her garment, generating an aura of light that appears to take the appearance of a guardian angel behind her, and she froze, dramatically floating in the air. Mary Sue announced, will be Hokage. As soon as she ended her pronouncement, a strange sound began to drown out the choir. Kakashi peered behind him over the roof and saw that everyone on the ground had started applauding. Oh, Kakashi realized after hearing the unusual sound of 1,000 slaps. Everyone of Konoha is clapping. Mary landed gracefully and sat down, saying, thank you, with a beautiful grin. Sakura and Sasuke were staring at Mary Sue with undisguised admiration as Kakashi glanced at the other Genin. All right, Kakashi muttered, feeling like he'd aged 10 years. Divided by. When Kakashi arrived, Naruto's team, Team 13, was still in the middle of their discussion inside the classroom. Umino Uruka, a newly promoted Jonin, stared at him warily. Hey Kakashi, he replied, what are you doing here? I'm just curious about Naruto's comrades, he explained, adding inside that he was looking for some normalcy. Sorry, he continued, looking at the two kids and the blank robot, your names escape me. My name is Hinata. Hinata said more confidently than Kakashi expected. He took a glance at the automaton. My name is irrelevant. It continued monotonously. I exist to round out this team's numbers without invading the Naruhina ship. Well, Kakashi replied, nice to meet you all. He stared at Naruto, who was staring at him, before walking out the window. Divided by. Kakashi, Minato remarked with a smile as the Jonin entered his home. How are you? Fine, Kakashi answered, looking around. How about Kushina? She's at a fashion show, I see. Kakashi came to a halt. Fashion show. He was doubtful if he had heard correctly. Yeah, Minato agreed. After all, she has to set a good example for all the women of Konoha. Kakashi followed his sensei into the living room, nodding dumbly. So what brings you here? Said the fourth Hokage as he sat down on a couch. Your daughter is on my team, replied Kakashi. Ah yes, my lovely Mary Sue, Minato smiled. Such incredible talent and unrivaled power. She's probably unparalleled, Kakashi stated. I'd never met anyone like her before. Of course not, Minato replied. She's a one-of-a-kind genius beyond everyone's comprehension. She was thinking like a Hokage as a 3-month-old fetus, you know. Kakashi nodded in agreement. I definitely expect her to pass the bell test with flying colors, Minato said. Yes, Kakashi replied, and I'd be astonished if she doesn't. But I also had a question. So, how about Naruto? The world appeared to slow down and the atmosphere became heavier as soon as Kakashi's words left his mouth. Kakashi glanced at his sensei, or more particularly, the thundering look on his face that was typically reserved for the battlefield. The demon, Minato murmured. Kakashi's right eye twitched. Calm down, he reminded himself, and let's not lose our cool. Minato then continued to speak. Divided by. So, how was it? Sasuke inquired of the white-haired ninja. He inquired. Why do you inquire? Kakashi asked. Because you had a sudden burst of rage that reminded me a lot of me. Last month. Sorry, Kakashi sighed. The Genjutsu brought my sensei back, and I didn't like it. Sasuke remembered the fourth Hokage, who was similar to Naruto but less intense, and who could be just as goofy. He inquired. Yes, Kakashi said after a few minutes of consideration. You drew me out before I could hit him. You could do what I do, Ino said sympathetically, tapping the Jonin on the shoulder. What exactly do you do? Kakashi inquired. Hide in my bedroom, Ino remarked with a smile. Naruto decided that he preferred fake Suna to fake Konoha. But that wasn't much of a challenge to overcome. Hinata was still alternating between being unable to remain cognizant in his presence and being passionately overprotective, generally in relation to how close Gaara or Temari were. It was weird, but bearable. There was only one problem when he went to one of their training grounds, which, unlike Konoha, was a plain of sand with sand dunes scattered around it. Being a ninja in the land of wind was clearly different from being a ninja in the land of fire. But there was one thing he was certain wasn't normal, even in the village hidden in the sand. My sand moves far quicker than explosives, Gaara shouted as she hurled the things at her sister. Well, my fan speed has gone hypersonic as a result of deflecting Teyuya's sound waves. She screamed back, hurling a gust of wind at the sand and knocking it back. And you think you can withstand my town-level attacks? Gaara responded, leaping back and causing a massive sand tsunami. My blade dance leveled a forest and killed Teyuya in one attack, Temari exclaimed. It is also at the town level. Her gust of wind struck Gaara's sand and, against all chances, stopped it. What's going on? Naruto asked Kankuro. Kankuro stated simply, they're sparring. This isn't a sparring bout, Naruto explained. I'm not sure what this is. All they're doing is keeping each other's scaling in mind to be as precise as possible. Accuracy is essential. Okay, Naruto answered, knowing that questioning just added to his uncertainty. We should end this, sister, Gaara exclaimed, clapping her hands. Lore implications prove that I'm stronger than you. Temari screamed as she was thrown off her feet and into a sand mound, blood streaming from her mouth. What the fuck? Said Naruto. Divided by, Sasuke no longer had the energy to question anything. Tsunade, for example, had only taken over as Hokage the day after Hiruzen died. Or why, despite the fact that it was the day following Orochimaru's attack. Konoha appeared brand new, or if they were even going to do the Chunin examinations. He was unconcerned about the fact that the buxom Hokage's breasts had become noticeably larger. Team 7, I have an assignment for you, she added. She reached for a stack of papers near the table's edge. They were on the verge of a nervous breakdown because her nauseatingly large breasts took up about half the table in front of her. They appeared to be gigantic bags attached to her chest rather than human organs. You must collect a scroll from Uzushiagakure's ruins. Sasuke was drawn in by the name. Fake Naruto claimed to be the successor to the kingdom of Uzushiagakure. He gazed at the evilly smirking black-clad ninja. Tsunade scanned them all before settling on Naruto. She blushed and shifted her gaze away, squirming. The action caused her breasts to ripple like water. Sasuke had to force himself not to gag. However, Tsunade stated quietly, I'm not convinced this a rank task is appropriate for a team of genin, even with Konoha's hero on their side. But, against his better judgment, didn't you invite us here to give us this mission? Sasuke asked. His vision immediately shifted. He was staring at the actual incarnation of too much of a good thing. And the next thing he knew, his face was buried in the floor. How dare you contradict the Hokage? Yelled a voice. Sasuke sighed. He was then yanked from the ground and forced closer to the sitting woman, who was staring at him. When he turned around, he saw that he was being held by two ANBU agents. Wait, what the? Bow your head and apologize, you arrogant bastard, they said as he approached the edge of her table, straight into her gigantic breasts. Sasuke screamed, struggling to breathe with his face buried in flesh, sweaty, wet, mushy skin. His face was pulled out after 10 seconds. I'm sorry, he exclaimed. Tsunade laughed. She slapped her breasts and said, only a real guy can handle these babies. It sounded like a gong was struck. Sasuke stumbled away from the freak of a lady as the ANBU let him free. I've got this. Incredulous, Sasuke returned the false Naruto's stare. I have no interest in fleshly desires, he answered, his countenance austere in a way that did not fit Naruto. But if I have to suffer your womanly tendencies in order to complete this task, he said coldly to the Hokage. Of course, this isn't because I want to, but because you want me to. Consider them handled. What happened to his ANBU face slam? Sasuke was perplexed. Oh really? Tsunade inquired, his face predatory. You're all fired, except Naruto. In an instant, Sasuke was out of the room. Wait, what the fuck? Divided by, Sakura was relieved to finally be free of her teammates. Unfortunately, it was evident that her teammates weren't the only ones who'd gone insane. And then I said, no, and she replied, yes, and I said, shut up, and she said, you shut up, and I said, you whore, and she responded, me whore. Ino grinned as she remembered the story. Sakura nodded along, scarcely paying attention to the story. Oh, my God, Tenten exclaimed between smacks of her gum. Your mother is such a mother. I know, Hinata admitted. She then flinched. Hey, she called out to the woman who was filing her nails. Take care. So, Sakura explained, this group pedicure is fantastic. Oh my god, Ino exclaimed. Don't tell me you forgot about our group pedicure, girl. Tenten responded, yeah, before blowing a bubble that exploded, enveloping her face. Hinata stated, we need to appear nice for our teams. Considering how useless we are, it's the least we can do. I know, Sakura responded, appearing to comprehend. All I wanted to know was what color we'd get. Isn't it obvious? Asked Ino. Red lipstick. Sakura nodded and said, ah, but do tell, Tenten murmured, finally scraping the gum from her face. How are your efforts to capture Sasuke going? About as well as usual. Tenten sighed and rolled her eyes. So you haven't put it to use yet? What did you use? Ino moved her head. You'll never have him under your thumb. And on top of you, unless you take this seriously. After all, what was the point of being a kunoichi if you don't obtain a ninja husband? Sakura chose not to respond. Ino grabbed into her purse and hurled a vial towards Sakura, who barely managed to catch it with her shaky coordination. A few droplets on his skin, and he'll be unable to take his hands off you. Sakura locked her gaze on the vial for a few moments. I'm sorry, what? She said to Ino. Tenten tapped her stomach and stated, it's extremely effective. That's how I was able to catch Neji. Sakura took a few seconds to notice that her stomach was significantly larger than usual. Wait, what the fuck? Divided by. Mary Sue unleashed a tornado of wood towards Kakashi, and he narrowly avoided being seized by her as she teleported in front of him using the Hurricane. Those bells are mine, she cried, punching a big crater in the dirt, before a branch sprang from the earth to catch Kakashi. He had barely flipped out of the way. With the substitution jutsu, he easily escaped. He observed Sasuke and Sakura staring from the sidelines with admiration in their eyes as he placed more distance between himself and the weird creature. This is worse than their first bell test, Kakashi thought as he had to catch Mary Sue's wrist just as she blasted a Rasengan in his face. He let go of her and hit her in the gut. He could feel her stomach against his fist beneath her ball gown. Kai's abs were softer than hers. The girl was thrown into the air, but she quickly recovered and made several hand seals. A massive tree erupted from the earth and engulfed her in its leaves. Are you serious? Kakashi inquired. What kind of girl was she? I can tell that I'll have to fight with everything I've got, she remarked. Beauty's 10th gate. What is the 10th of what? Mary Sue's body glowed bright gold with an explosion of pressure and chakra, and angel wings emerged from her back. She grew taller as her body matured, until she appeared to be 18. She flipped her now golden hair behind her back. The Hokage monument erupted in the distance. Kakashi gazed, completely perplexed. Now, sensei, shall we proceed? She asked, teleporting right in front of him. In an act of self-preservation, Kakashi said, you pass. Mary Sue took a breather. She then nodded and returned to normalcy. Right now, Kakashi said. Please pardon me. I need to go do something, he said quickly, using the shunshin to get as far away as possible. He slumped to his hands and knees after landing in an alley. Wait, what the fuck? Divided by. Kurama awoke with a sigh and chose not to open his eyes. He was suffering from a splitting headache. He knew Naruto had defeated Sasuke, or at the very least avoided death, because he was awake. He'd been sleeping for at least a couple weeks, which he'd expected, but something seemed strange. What has Naruto done now? He inquired. He came to a halt. There was something odd with his voice. It sounded a little human. I didn't do anything, you know. The Ninetales' eyes widened as he sat up and turned to face the source of the two young voice. It was Naruto, but he was 12 again, and they weren't in his thoughts. Kurama was asleep on a bed. What happened, Naruto? Are we in your old room? Naruto cocked his brow. What? Not calling me Gaki or kid anymore. Kurama looked at his hands. His human hands. Sure, the nails were longer than normal, and his skin had a slight red tint to it, but it was undeniably human. He shot up from the bed he'd been lying in and ran to where he knew the bathroom was, stopping in front of the mirror. Divided by. Sasuke stopped walking as he heard a slightly familiar voice, filled with rage and anguish, scream, what the fuck? Kurama, he asked. So, Sasuke said, I think I can make this the last trip, especially now that I've found Kurama. Sakura let out a sigh of relief. But, Sasuke said, if we're really going to crush this genjutsu, it'll be a lot faster to have a lot more beacons. Ino looked at him. How many more? Sasuke looked at the gathered ninja. Any volunteers? Divided by. Kiba walked through the changed Konoha looking down at himself. For some reason, he was still a teenager, which was pretty contrary to what everyone promised. He didn't know if this would be a good thing or not. He looked at the door in front of him. The weirdness seemed to always surround Naruto, from what he'd been told, and being weirded out was an emotion Sasuke had apparently gotten really good at noticing. He took a deep breath, steeled his nerves, and opened the door. He slammed it shut as soon as he caught sight of what was inside. Was that the wreckage? Despite the common sense that told him to turn and run, he couldn't resist the urge to make sure what he had seen was accurate. Cursing his curiosity, he opened the door. He was not prepared for what he saw. It really was the wreckage, and Hinata, and Ino, and Tenten, and Hanabi, Hinata's sister, and Temari, and the Mizukichi, and Sakura, and a girl that looked a lot like Naruto's sexy Jutsu. And the woman Naruto had transformed into when he was explaining what that Kaguya chick Team 7 had fought during the war was like. None of them had noticed him, too preoccupied with. Kiba closed the door and turned around, and then he began running. Unfortunately, doing so was beyond her capacity as she looked at Tsunade, and then at the child in Tsunade's arms. Child was both an extremely accurate word, and yet so misleading. But Shizune couldn't deny what she was bearing witness to. I love you, mommy. The 12-year-old Naruto, dressed in an orange, fox-themed onesie, said before he went back to sucking on her breast. Oh baby, Tsunade said in the most obnoxious voice Shizune had ever heard her make. I'm just your grandmommy. Minato was my long-lost son, remember? Shizune had several things to say to that, but she settled for cuddling the pig. This couldn't possibly get worse. I pooped myself, Naruto said. Tsunade gasped. I'll change you. Shizune turned to the window and opened it. Shizune, Tsunade asked, looking away from the baby. Taunton wants to go out. Bye. Shizune jumped out of the building, hoping the bars she usually had to retrieve Tsunade from existed in this world. It was either that or become a missing nin. Divided by. Choji wasn't sure what he'd been expecting when he'd gone to visit Naruto, but it wasn't this. Choji couldn't answer, too busy looking at the shrine in Naruto's living room. There were pictures, dozens of them, of Sasuke, and it would be one thing if that was it, but it wasn't. There were scented tomato-flavored candles. There was a lock of hair nailed to a wooden board. There was a vial of what Choji hoped was tomato juice but was too familiar with food to believe it was. There was a pile of half-rotten leftovers he guessed Sasuke had eaten. There was a pile of dirty clothes on the ground, the shirts with a large Uchiha fan on the back. Choji glanced at the blonde. Sure, Sasuke may have called me a psycho Yander stalker he would murder if he saw again, the boy said, but I know he didn't mean it. When I rescue him from Orochimaru, he's going to be so awestruck. He'll fall in love with me immediately. Choji just nodded dumbly, and then he'll put his children inside me. Choji resisted the urge to start crying. Divided by. Tenten looked over the three girls in front of her. They didn't look any younger. In fact, they looked exactly like they did after the war. Nothing, Tenten said. Have you guys seen Naruto lately? Ino inquired. Not really, but did he do anything? No. At least, I'm not certain. Perhaps you might ask Hinata, Ino slyly suggested. What? Hinata inquired. Come on, everyone knows you like him. Madara Uchiha and Hidden entered the restaurant at that same moment. Tenten would have responded violently if she hadn't frozen in terror. Hidden, the eternal religious zealot who had killed Asuma, and Madara Uchiha, the revived ninja orchestrating the most recent war. And they were getting closer while they argued about flowers. Sakura-chan, whimpered Hidden as he draped himself over the Chunin in question. Tell Madara that he's mistaken about your favorite flowers. Tell this moron he's incorrect, Sakura. She would never do that, Hidden replied before reaching out his tongue and licking Sakura's ear. Pinkette shivered with delight. Madara knelt down to Sakura's eye level, giving her bedroom eyes. Are you certain you want to begin this, Hidden? Tenten opened her mouth but said nothing. It didn't feel like real life anymore. It was as if she'd walked into one of the erotica books she'd stolen from Ino. All they needed was a pirate with an open chest. Another man entered as if on cue. Ino gave him a sidelong glance before doing a double take. The dude was quite tall. No, that was insufficient. Tall was the dude. He had to be at least 10 feet tall. He had light blonde hair and wore red-tinted sunglasses. He was dressed in an open white shirt and pink-stripped red pants. The most noticeable aspect of his attire, though, was the massive clump of pink feathers on his back. He approached their table and halted. Then he stretched up and laughed the most awful laugh Tenten had ever heard. Madara sighed and rose to her feet. The gigantic man bowed forward and looked Uchiha in the eyes. A daring move. May I assist you, Doflamingo? I was sent by Sasuke to tell you two idiots to come back. So you're now Sasuke's errand boy. Doflamingo's grin never left his face. Be careful, you're no longer a Jinchuriki. Do you believe that implies you can take me? Perhaps not, but that means that if Sasuke puts you inside one of his floating moons, you're not going to get out, so by all means. Doflamingo came in so close that Tenten feared he was about to kiss Madara. Do whatever you want. There was a brief moment of stillness. Madara then reached up, grasped Doflamingo's face, and drew him into a kiss. Tenten suffocated, and the Doflamingo returned his kiss. They also began to use their tongue. Hidden exhaled a sigh. He then licked Sakura's cheek. "See you later, darling," he said as he stood up and walked over to the two men kissing. "All right," he said, "let's get started." The two men parted ways, leaving a trail of drool from one mouth to the other. All three turned and departed the restaurant without saying anything. "Yeesh, Sakura," Ino said. "Keep an eye on your boyfriends. I have no control over them," Sakura admitted. "Yeah, right," Ino replied. "You've never met a dangerous man who hasn't fallen madly in love with you." Tenten would have stood up to leave, but she was terrified of the number of dangerous psychos she would encounter if she went outdoors. Divided by, Sai reverted to his former position, saying nothing as effortlessly as he breathed. He was dressed in his ANBU uniform and stood at attention throughout the meeting between Danzo and the third Hokage. He and a slew of other ANBU. He rationalized that he shouldn't have been startled. His childhood had not been typical. "I don't think this is Danzo," Hiruzen said. "Shut up," said the bandaged ninja before slapping his former teammate. As the third Hokage rose from his seat, walked to a corner of the room, knelt down, and began crying, Sai blinked under his mask. Danzo sat down and placed both of his feet on the table. "We've received indications from Abisu village that ninjas are viewed negatively." Sai wouldn't pretend to be the world's most knowledgeable ninja, but since the Fourth Great Ninja War, he was well aware that ninjas weren't exactly popular with many civilians outside their communities. "With a sad heart, I must order you to go and murder it." Sai's eyes blinked. He then dared to ask a question. "Will you kill it, sir?" Danzo gave a nod. "Yes, you must murder the entire village." Sai opened his lips to say something but quickly shut it again. "However, keep in mind that all of the children will be trained to be effective root agents." "But Danzo," sobbed Hiruzen. "No, we can't. It's for the greater good," exclaimed Danzo. Hiruzen calmed down. "Don't be concerned," Danzo said. "With your masks on, no one will be able to identify you." Sai caught sight of the female agent next to him. Her duck mask did little to conceal her vivid pink hair. "Now, go, my Kano as justice agents." As everyone filed out, Sai decided to give the missing nin thing a shot. Divided by, Rock Lee liked to think of himself as a particularly diligent worker. He fought tooth and nail for every single one of his abilities. With that in mind, this was absurd. "What are you up to?" Neji's miniature self sat up on the lawn chair he was sunning in. Attempting to achieve the ideal tan. "Yeah," Tenten remarked from a hot tub that was, for some reason, in the heart of their training grounds. She was dressed in a beige one-piece. "What does he appear to be doing?" "It's not training." They both looked at each other before breaking out laughing. "Are you all right?" Tenten inquired. "You spent about 5 minutes hugging Neji when we first arrived. And now you're recommending we train." "Ninjas don't practice," Neji explained. "We don't have to." Lee gave a blink. "No, you don't." "Of course," he replied. "All ninjas are born at their peak, with no need to train, except you." Lee blinked in response to Neji's statement. "What? That's correct," Tenten said. "Neji has never trained in his life and is a better ninja than you." I didn't believe it when I was 14. Are you 14 years old?" I believe I'll go for a run," Lee said as he flipped onto his arms and began running away from his colleague's miniature replica. Divided by, the job was almost finished, and Sasuke was relieved he'd gotten most of it out of Naruto's head. They were already perplexed in the remains of Uzushiaga Cure. It was amazingly intact for a village that had been destroyed for decades. Nonetheless, decrepit, it appeared to be the ruins of an ancient civilization that had not been raided to bits by robbers. The structures appeared to be far too old, but they were still standing. Aside from that, the city's layout was actually quite interesting. It appeared to be modeled on the spiral that was the Uzumaki clan insignia, with a single road that traveled around the hamlet and led to the center. Sasuke assumed it was utilized for grand official parades. Of course, there were a few smaller roads that connected the village in a more practical way, so you didn't have to walk around every building to get from one point to another. "I can't believe 3 elemental nations assembled solely to kill out my people. Far more spectacular than being wiped out by a single individual, don't you think, Sasuke?" Before glancing at Naruto, Sasuke almost collapsed. "The bravery. Interesting fact. Can you provide a source?" "My source says I made the fuck up." Sasuke's eyes blinked. What? Naruto inquired. Everyone understands what happened. Sasuke has no idea what had happened to Uzushiaga Cure. He hadn't looked into it, but he was certain he'd heard if 3 nations banded together during a war to attack this one settlement. "Remember, our aim is to recover the one scroll," Kakashi remarked. "I know the Uzumaki scrolls of boundless power, ultimate Kai, master teleportation, stand creation, Nen harnessing, the note of death, and time travel will be tempting, but it's best we leave those alone." Sasuke fixed his gaze on Kakashi's construct. He was aware. "The power of seals is astonishing," simply stated the Jonin. "Take a look at Hiraishin." Sasuke was 99% certain the fourth Hokage's jutsu wasn't a seal technique, but he chose to ignore it in favor of returning to his thoughts. Kiba was appalled. Shizune was as well, and Choji appeared to be in tears. Tenten was disgusted as well, but she was more astonished and afraid. Sai appeared to have gone missing. That's fantastic. And Lee was perplexed, and it was because of them that he was able to create a very clear and direct path to Kurama, who was confused and angry. But before he could make that final link, a man stood in front of him, scattering all of his thoughts. Itachi, his older brother, was standing 10 feet away, as stern as ever. "Oh no," Kakashi exclaimed. "This is Solo, King Itachi." "It's what?" Sasuke inquired. Itachi examined all four of them. He moved his head to the side and started walking away. "He wants us to follow him," stated Kakashi. Finally, some excitement, Naruto exclaimed as he began following the man he suspected of being a mass murderer. Sasuke sighed before following, his gaze fixed on his map. He didn't care what warped form his brother would take, and he hoped he could get away swiftly. Divided by, he couldn't get away fast enough, and now he was stuck watching this farce. The Akatsuki had established a base in the center of Uzushiogakure, where there was a palace, a massive golden palace they had somehow missed when they first arrived, and Naruto was seated atop the throne. "It's an honor to restore you, the head of this clan, community, and land, to your rightful station," Pain remarked, bowing his head respectfully. "Thank you," Naruto said. Sasuke shifted his gaze away from the horror show and onto the rest of the Akatsuki. He hadn't met the majority of them, but he knew what they looked like. Konan and Sasori were playing cards. Deidara, Hidden, and Kekuzu were indulging in a drinking contest. Kasama and Kakashi were engaging in arm wrestling. Zetsu and Sakura were discussing sweets. Sasuke approached Obito in search of answers. The orange-masked man nodded. "So, the Akatsuki?" Obito asked in his Madara voice. "Do you like it? We all gathered together because we couldn't stand our villages and then went our own ways." Sasuke gave a nod. "So far, so perplexing. But we've discovered one other and become a true loving family," he added, his voice becoming a little mushy near the end. Sasuke looked down at the disguised Uchiha. Obito gazed at him, then swiftly averted his gaze in horror. "Huh?" Sasuke asked, looking behind him. "Itachi, I apologize." "Solo King Itachi," Obito said. "Please do not one-tap me. I did not mean any offense." Itachi gave a wise nod. "I need some fresh air," Sasuke said as he began to walk away. "You've shown a lot of maturity today, Sasuke." Sasuke turned to face his brother. "The prodigal asshole talks," he explained. He then took a breather. "I've been hanging out with Naruto a lot." Itachi remained silent in the face of his insult. "You've been extremely mature about the whole Uchiha massacre. It would have been childish if you were furious or felt the need to fight me about it. I see you've come to understand that sometimes." Sasuke moved away, turning around. He came to a halt in front of a pool outside the palace. He sat in a lotus pose and reflected on the map. Sasuke turned his head as someone sat down beside him. Sakura was the name. "Are you all right?" she inquired. "I mean, of course you are. You're Sasuke Uchiha. Nothing phases you in." She paused as Sasuke placed his fingers on her brow. "Don't you always see the best in me?" I don't always appreciate, and I definitely don't deserve it, but here we are." He returned his gaze to the mansion. "Both of you anyway. But he's far too twisted here, so I think I should appreciate you, even though you're a caricature." Sakura smiled as he spoke. Sasuke made the connection at that precise time. Divided by, Kurama was irritated. At all. Not only was he stuck as a human for some reason, but the residents of the village were certain he was Naruto's twin brother. To top it all off, he and the dumb youngster were trapped as 12-year-olds. And by dumb, he meant incapable of functioning independently. And why was his only option an orange kimono with flames? Kurama style. Kurama turned to face the child squatting by the side of the road. He was chewing on sand. He downed it. "It tastes different than usual." Kurama continued walking. This version of the youngster would clearly die if left alone, which is why he was outside Naruto as his big brother. The only reason he didn't blow up the village with a Biju bomb was because he had no idea what was going on and would annoy Naruto if he did. He paused to laugh to himself. The village appeared to have reverted 3 years, but his attitude toward the ninja who served as his prisoner couldn't be more dissimilar. Kurama spun around. He hissed, "Uchiha." Naruto fixed his gaze on him. "No, Sasuke's still in the hospital from your drop kick through the Hokage tower." Kurama took a peek at the boy. He then laughed. "Very funny," replied Sasuke once more. "Do you want to know where you are right now?" Kurama groaned. "Go ahead," he said, ignoring Naruto's confused expression. Naruto was struck by an exceedingly intricate genjutsu, which appears to have imprisoned you in your own genjutsu to match. Reminds me of the infinite Tsukuyomi. What an apt analogy. When I tried to break him out of it, I was put in my own unique genjutsu, which appears to be made out of rubbish meant to confuse and disorient me. I can tell by your voice that it worked." Sasuke mumbled something. several ninja, and I have infiltrated Naruto's mind to build a viable path to you, and I've discovered why the Genjutsu went insane. The Genjutsu has latched onto your chakra and is morphing to be like the endless Tsukuyomi, which makes sense since you were part of the 10 tails. That's why I can't ordinarily shatter it. And what exactly are your options? Drain all chakra from you until you essentially dissipate. Kurama wished the last Uchiha was in front of him so he could see his expression. I'm only saying that to get you to listen to the other method. And what is it? I need to assemble everyone who is currently in Naruto's mind. And then I'll be able to seize the Genjutsu and shatter it. But there's a but. I require your chakra. Kurama wished the final Uchiha was in front of him so he could see his scowl. Because it's so suited to your chakra signature, I'll need it to move through the jutsu. Or it could be a crazy ploy to steal my chakra that you've devised. There was a pause. Do you think I sound like Naruto? Good point, Kurama said as he began to gather his chakra. He cast a peek towards Naruto, who was glaring him down. We've both tried to kill him, and now we're trying to figure out how to save him. He grinned, sending the chakra rushing through the connection. Divided by. Through his connection to the Biju, Sasuke felt the chakra rush over him. Sasuke, Sakura inquired, her voice concerned. Sasuke ignored her as he felt his power ignite in response to the fox's boost. He rose to his feet and gazed into the water in front of him. His body was golden, similar to Naruto's in Kyuubi chakra mode, but his eyes were different. One was a Sharingan, and the other was named the Rinne Sharingan by Naruto. He smirked, astonished to discover that his teeth were all razor sharp. Interesting. When there was a crash, Sasuke turned around to see Naruto burst out of the mansion, leaving a gaping hole in his wake. The Akatsuki were all shockedly peering out of the hole. Sasuke, he inquired, what is the significance of this? Sasuke looked at Sakura and extended his hand to her. She blinked nervously before taking it and accepted his assistance to stand. Sasuke extended his other hand and grabbed Kubikirabacho by the blade. Naruto looked at him, stunned. As he squeezed and shattered the blade, Sasuke couldn't help but grin. Sorry, Naruto, but I have a mission to complete. The false Naruto recovered quickly to Sasuke's transformation, his body becoming red with Kyuubi energy. So you were concealing a power from me? He inquired. Before Sasuke could respond, his opponent's hand formed a Rasengan and crashed into his stomach. Sasuke stared down at where Naruto's hand had come to a halt on his stomach. Then he threw his hand into his chest, knocking him to the ground. I'm sorry, but I don't have time for this. Hidden scythe he avoided. Don't go after the heir too. You're the immortal serial killer, right? Orochimaru frequently complained about you. Hidden's question was cut short by Sasuke's hand slashing through his arm. Sasuke used almighty push to blast him back, sending him hurtling through the palace before he could scream. Obito yelled, Hidden, how dare you hurt one of our family? He exclaimed to Sasuke. Sasuke's eyes blinked. Irwa. He avoided Pain's grab before punching him in the gut. Hidden was pursued by the other Rinnegan user. Sasuke examined the phony Sakura. She should have been terrified, but she just smiled. I knew you were hiding something fantastic, she replied, her eyes twinkling. Sasuke tilted his head before a surge of energy caused him to look around for where he'd flung the false Naruto. Are you still awake? The Jinchuriki had 3 tails. I intend to. Stop. The imposter paused. I don't care about this village, and to be honest, I wish you luck with this. Whatever, I have other things to do that don't need wasting chakra here. Naruto was stunned and enraged as he glanced at him. No, you don't just leave to do whatever. I have to beat you. I have to be superior to your arrogant ass. Why? Sasuke inquired. That's precisely how it happens, yelled Naruto, sprouting a 4th tail. You're not supposed to be important. You're not supposed to go off and do whatever you want. I'm supposed to beat you and make you feel horrible. Sasuke wasn't sure how to respond. Is it your problem that I have a life of my own? No, it's, you don't belong. You don't belong in my story. Sakura caught Sasuke's eye. Then he looked at Akatsuki, who was watching him. Then he wondered how he should behave. I believe we can agree on that, he remarked, smiling. I don't fit in this story. I've got my own. Naruto charged forward, only to be hit in the face. Sasuke put in some effort this time. Naruto flew through several buildings until he was several miles away. He turned to face Sakura. I have to leave. But Kunoichi looked up. But, you say, the truth is, I'm not right for your story and I don't belong here. But, why not? How could it get any better than this? Sasuke frowned. I don't think it's supposed to. The Sasuke in your story is nothing like me. Sakura's face sagged. Sasuke shifted his gaze away from her and concentrated. In front of him, a bright orange doorway appeared. He took a step towards it but was stopped by a hand on his shoulder. He turned to face the fake Sakura, who pressed her lips into the corner of his mouth. He locked his gaze on her as she grinned. Well, I'm sure Sakura exists in your story, and I'm sure she'll be pleased with you. Everyone's attention was drawn to the roar and burst of chakra. In the distance, 9 massive yellow tails could be seen. "Give me a second," Sasuke stated before holding out his palm and forming a small-tailed beast bomb. He added lightning to its makeup with a second application of chakra before winding his arm back. With a heave, he threw it as hard as he could as the 9 tails formed. He returned to the portal and entered it without looking back. Even as the environment behind her was enveloped in a massive white explosion, the fake Sakura smiled at him. Divided by, the environment shifted with a jerk. Sasuke was staring at Sakura once more, but this one was quite different. "Sakura?" he inquired. The girl raised her head to look at him. She was sitting on the roof of a bar by herself. "Sasuke?" she inquired, her gaze drawn to the bottle of sake in her hand. "That's odd. I shouldn't be hallucinating simply from drinking." For a brief moment, Sasuke considered that this was yet another genjutsu construct, but this was clearly not the case. Sakura's appearance differed from the buzz of the same dark orange chakra in the makeup of everything around him. It appeared to be her own chakra. "You're not hallucinating, Sakura. I'm here to pick you up. Have you been drinking?" Even though the answer was obvious, Sasuke required verbal confirmation. "Well, it was either that or construct a pregnancy trap for you." On another day, Sasuke could have been perplexed and requested clarification. "All right, we're going to pick up Inu next." Sakura fixed her gaze on him before smiled. "Sasuke," she cried as she jumped into his arms. Sasuke caught her and sighed as he gazed at her. "All right," he said as he opened another doorway. Divided by, he was now in a girl's room. Ino was screaming and shoving her body against the door with her back to him. "I told you I didn't want to fuck your monster cock." "Ino," Sakura mumbled as she staggered out of Sasuke's clutches. Ino looked about, her eyes wide open. How long have you been there?" "I told you," Sakura mockingly imitated the blonde's voice. "And we don't want any details," Sasuke added. "All right, let's go." "Wait," said Ino. Can I say goodbye to my father?" Sasuke's eyes blinked. He then nodded. Ino turned to face the door. She came to a halt. "Could you please do me a favor?" Sasuke avoided gazing at the electrocuted shape of the genjutsu's version of Naruto and the ridiculous bulge in his pants a minute later. Sakura burst out laughing. Before kissing her father's face, Ino whispered something to his confused replica. The portal to the next genjutsu was opened by Sasuke. Inoichi was taken aback, but before he could respond, Sasuke stretched 2 massive chakra arms to grab both ladies and hop through the portal. Divided by, he was welcomed with words this time. "If anyone has a reason why these two should not be married." The speaker spoke as everyone turned to face the intruders. "Is this a wedding?" Ino inquired, surveying the assembled visitors. "This isn't just any wedding," Sasuke said, his gaze fixed on the bride and groom standing a few feet in front of him. "It's nice to see someone having a good time." Hinata had the decency to appear embarrassed. "Woo!" exclaimed Sakura. "Congratulations on finding your man." "Wait, you didn't have to become pregnant, did you?" "We've been trying," said the Hyuga clan's leader from his seat. Hinata was now horrified. Naruto, the groom, looked at them. Then he turned to face his best man, who was standing behind him. He then turned to face 2 of Hinata's bridesmaids. Then he returned his gaze to them. "How come there are 2 of you?" Sasuke activated the next genjutsu by opening a portal. "Not essential. I'm just here to pick something up." He formed a third huge arm and transferred Hinata into the portal as he walked into it. The Hyuga clan charged at him with an awful screech, but they were far too sluggish. Divided by, after they arrived in the next world, Sasuke determined to return and confront the Hyuga clan. They looked to have transported inside a BBQ restaurant. He faintly recognized his classmates and the figures he was gazing at. Despite the fact that Ino looked like she'd been deep-fried and Choji was dressed in the second most disgusting outfit he'd ever seen. His classmates' constructs began speaking in a language he didn't understand. Finally, their version of Sasuke approached him, and Sasuke nearly died of embarrassment. He was dressed all in black, wore a black jacket, and had about a dozen piercings in his face. When he opened his mouth to speak, Sasuke noticed he was also wearing vampire teeth. "Do you dare, Tsuka?" the abomination inquired. Before Ino spoke up, Sasuke considered killing it. "Shikamaru, we're here to pick you up." Shikamaru was staring at them from the midst of the crowd, and close to him was a cross-dressing Naruto. "Who are your oddly dressed pals? And have they heard of moderation?" Ino asked, looking at her double. Shikamaru cast a peek towards Hinata, who was still dressed in her wedding gown. Ino admitted, looking at Sasuke, who was staring at Naruto, who was dressed in a low-cut skirt and a white blouse with pink boys on it. Nope, no, Sasuke said again before grabbing Shikamaru and opening another gateway. No, I'm not going through that again. Not going to happen. Goodbye, Shikamaru." "Wait, Aru-san," shouted Nara before Sasuke could enter the portal. Shikaku Nara appeared seemingly out of nowhere. "Did you study their language?" Sasuke inquired. just a few words. Shikaku began a stream of words in which Sasuke was certain he conveyed anxiety and concern for his kid. But Shikamaru stopped. Arigato. Anata ga koishii desu, he remarked with a smile. Sasuke took a step through the portal, divided by. Their horde landed in front of Kakashi in the middle of a training field. But what worried him more was the fact that he could see the Hokage monument from where he was standing, or what was left of it. The masked ninja nodded. All right. Sasuke looked around at the three genin beside him, recognizing himself in Sakura but not the redhead female, who had orange eyes. Wait, Sasuke interrupted. Is Naruto a girl in this world? You are a menace to my world, the redhead stated, pointing to Sasuke. Sasuke's question was cut off when he instinctively put his arms in front of himself to deflect the kick to the face. Both of his arms were broken. She's stronger than Amo Naruto, Sasuke thought to himself. No, he'd get this powerful if I kept battling him. He shielded his passengers with chakra before tossing them away so he could concentrate on the fight, leaving plenty of space between himself and them. Kakashi, run, he shouted. He didn't pause to see if the Jonin had done as he was ordered. The redhead snarled before she twisted and smacked him with a back kick, sending him flying back. Even as the bones in his arms fixed themselves, Sasuke gasped. He struck the ground in a chidori, unleashing a stream of lightning on her. The girl leaped into the air and stood there, staring at him with her gorgeous blue eyes. What? Sasuke wondered, both at her soaring and at his mental image of her. Have you ever heard of air walking? It's a third chakra control exercise. Sasuke glared at her before forming 9 massive chakra arms and launching them at her, which she gracefully dodged, before forming the Tora hand seal, fire style, 1,000 suns majestic beauty. As a giant ball of white flame descended on Sasuke, he quickly clapped his hands together, summoning the Susanoo, which now resembled a fox. The girl's fireball was stronger than any flame Sasuke had felt outside of the Genjutsu, and his Susanoo began to break apart on top of him, so he switched places with his opponent with a flex of his chakra, Sasuke's scan for his opponent's chakra as the training ground exploded. Almost flinching when he saw it, everyone's chakra had a color, but this girl's. It was a black void. He barely sensed the second attack coming and dodged as she flew by him, noticing how stunningly gorgeous she was up close. What? Sasuke inquired, stunned by her leg snapping out and smacking him in the face, knocking him to the ground in the midst of Kano. What the fuck? Said Sasuke from inside the crater. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Kano, Kakashi had arrived at the location where Sasuke had thrown everyone. I can see I'm not the only one suffering, he observed. Who the hell is that? Shikamaru inquired, being the only one left on the ground, which made sense. That would be Mary Sue. As far as I can tell, she's an anomaly that bends the universe to her will. Isn't it Naruto? She fights Sasuke like she's Naruto, Sakura asked, looking off to the side as a massive explosion rocked the village. I could never be Mary Sue, a hushed voice remarked, piqued their interest. It was Naruto, although a filthy, hungry, and sickly Naruto. Not Naruto. Hinata shrieked as she ran to him, lifting her ridiculously big bridal gown. Please don't hit me, the phony Naruto said, holding his hand out in front of him. Hinata came to a halt and sobbed. Naruto, what do you mean you'll never be Mary Sue? Sakura inquired, stumbling to her feet. I mean, she's flawless. She embodies everything I am not. Looks, intelligence, and skill. I'm only. Shut up, Sakura screamed. The visitors to the Genjutsu were filled with rage at the sight of this version of their friend, and Naruto's mouth closed with an audible click. Who gives a damn? Who cares about some overly made-up bitch who cheats her way out of every challenge? Sakura asked, pointing to him. You are Naruto Uzumaki. You never give up, even when rationality tells you to. And it's stupid, but admirable. And everyone who spends time with you will notice. Naruto looked at her, puzzled. But, however, nothing. In my opinion, one of you is worth 1,000 of her. What? Everyone turned to look at the topic of their conversation, but she looked different. Her hair was now golden and pointed upwards, and her eyes had clearly landed on the color blue, and she was surrounded by a golden aura that seemed to keep her floating off the ground. How could you? This is my world, she inquired. My entire world. Mine. Calm down, lovely, said the source of the voice. Fighting you is annoying, Sasuke said as he struggled to stand. I can feel this Genjutsu attempting to convince me I'm in love with you every time we collide. It's not my fault my opponents all realize how awesome I am when we fight, Mary Sue shrugged. The only one who doesn't seem to understand is that pathetic trash who thinks he's worthy of attention, she said, pointing to Naruto. So you're saying that no matter what, Naruto will never cease obeying you, said Sasuke. I know, the girl murmured. It irritates me. Is he under the impression that this story is about him? Funny you should ask that. A portal appeared in front of Sasuke, and another Naruto stumbled through, roaring with wrath. He resembled Naruto's Six Paths form, but was black rather than golden. What? Another of those worthless worms? Mary Sue inquired. Worthless. The new Naruto growled. I'll show you worthless. He charged at the girl and crashed into her. The instant they collided, a black portal appeared around them and they disappeared. Well, Sasuke muttered, dispersing the portal in front of him. Now they can argue over who the main character is for all eternity in one of Kaguya's universes. He stared at Naruto. What happened to him? Sakura scoffed and hastily waved Sasuke away before returning her attention to the starving Naruto. You are so much more valuable than others give you credit for. Okay. Naruto gave a nod. All right, Sasuke said. His arms sprouted from him and grabbed everyone. He looked at the rubble that was once Konoha, then at the fake Naruto. Are you going to be okay? It's not that different from what I'm used to, the impersonator said, nodding. Well, Sasuke, Sakura said, seems like you did ruin Konoha. She then burst out laughing. Will she go through every form of intoxicated there is? Shikamaru asked. Hopefully, it'll be less insane in the next one, Sasuke said as he walked through a new portal. Divided by. They came in what Sasuke assumed was Kiba's room, prompting him to perform a double take. You're still a teenager, he said. Kiba peered up from his fetal position on the floor at the luminous mass that had entered his chamber. Sasuke, is that you? Are you coming to save me from this insanity? The building rumbled before Sasuke could respond. Trust me, Hana, it's time to sample this BBC. Come get some sunshine. Was that the rakeage? Sasuke asked, looking out to the side. Kiba leapt onto Sasuke, which was difficult because he was taller than him. Get me out of this hell, he yelled. Wah, do it, before he notices us, screamed Ino. Ino's genjutsu had Sasuke in no mood to see what the rakeage was like here, so he formed a new arm and grabbed Kiba before walking into a new portal. Divided by. When they met Shizune, Sasuke moaned, you got drunk too. Shizune, you got more booze, Sakura yelled, ignoring the panicked bar-goers fleeing them. Give it to me. No, Sasuke murmured as he grabbed the woman and opened a new gateway. No one needs to get intoxicated. Divided by. Everyone was staring at a shrine to Sasuke as Naruto went into detail about how the now missing ninja would impregnate him. After slapping the false unconscious, Sasuke walked back to Shizune's genjutsu to get a couple bottles of sake. Divided by. The air is different, Sasuke said, noting that they were in a restaurant. You don't want to witness what I've seen. An adolescent Tenten jumped into his arms. Everyone accepted her word for it. Divided by. They discovered Sai camping, which would have been unusual enough if he hadn't had a line etched through his headband. Huh, Sakura chuckled. Who's the betraying cockroach now? Then she looked down and said, Hey Tenten, please switch with me. What? Tenten inquired. I want Sasuke to carry me. Sakura whimpered before taking another gulp from her bottle. Sasuke, please. Sasuke switched both girls with his Rinnegan. Woo, Sakura shouted, wrapping her arms around his neck. Will you also carry me in your arms, Sasuke? Sai inquired. To lift up the ninja, Sasuke fashioned a new arm. Divided by. Rock Lee was standing in the rain, staring pensively at the sky, and then he smiled at them. With the hand that was already holding Sai, Sasuke scooped him up and walked through a new portal. Divided by. Finally, Sasuke exclaimed, Kurama. Two of the boys at Ikaraku Ramen turned around. The sight of the Nine-Tails fox in human form slurping noodles made Sasuke cringe. It's our classmates, Naruto said. I think they look different. See what I've had to cope with, Kurama sighed. Sakura laughed as she heard the fox's gruff voice coming from the small body. I mourn for you, Sasuke said flatly to Kurama. I'm going to have to go for a while, Kurama said, rolling his eyes at Naruto. Do you promise not to eat anything you find on the floor until I return? The phony Naruto considered it, then said flatly, no. Good enough for me, Kurama said after 20 seconds of staring at the boy. He jumped out of his seat and vanished. Let's go, Kurama's voice said in Sasuke's brain. Sasuke stepped through a new gateway and then took a double take. Divided by. Are we in Suna? Shikamaru inquired. Forget it. Is that you, Gaara? Ino inquired. Their inquiries eventually garnered the attention of Naruto and the two girls who were tugging at his sleeve. All right, what's going on now? We're here to break the genjutsu and take you to the real world, said Sasuke. And what about the violent Oedipal rape fantasies? Naruto questioned Sasuke. That's not the worst thing I've heard today, Sasuke replied. Naruto, I've been worrying about you, Hinata yelled before leaping onto him. Who the fuck is this bitch? Said the false Hinata, still grasping Naruto's arm. The real Hinata recoiled in surprise and gazed at her double. Hi. Before the imposter Hinata could do anything, Sasuke teleported behind her and delivered a shock to the back of her neck, causing her to collapse like a sack of potatoes. I win, but the female Gaara froze as Sasuke appeared behind her and shocked her as well. I can't stand up to the implied highballed multiversal scale, she screamed before collapsing. Wait, Naruto paused. Is this real? Can I leave? Yes, Sasuke replied. All I need to do is enter your mind and shut it down from there. Do you have to? Flinched Naruto. Or I can wake these two up and have them fight over you forever. Okay, Naruto said, afraid. It's your funeral. Look at my eyes, moaned Sasuke. Naruto followed orders. No, mumbled the comatose Hinata, Naruto is mine. Sasuke ignored her and entered Naruto's head, which he quickly regretted. Sasuke had previously entered Naruto's headspace, but this was different. Instead of a sewer with a massive gate, it resembled a magnificent lounge, complete with massive marble columns and sofas, and a rug on the floor. Oh, it's an Uchiha. Sasuke's attention was drawn to the female voice. By the beard of Hagoromo, Kurama yelled, his voice still echoing in Sasuke's head. It was a busty, orange-haired 7-foot-tall woman with huge breasts and a feral smile, dressed in a see-through kimono over an orange bikini and, of course, fox ears on her head. The abomination approached Sasuke, her hips swaying as she walked. All right, big boy, to whom do I owe my pleasure? You know what, groaned Sasuke. It's been a long fucking day, he said, forming a chidori. Don't move. Divided by. Sasuke Yuji was surprised to discover that he was no longer required, and irritated that he'd been dragged to Konoha by that overly enthusiastic, smiling green menace for no apparent reason. But what about the Genjutsu? That was probably largely a side effect of the tailed beast's chakra, the Hokage replied. So, what was the vision like? Yuji blinked. This was new to him. Tsunade stood up from her desk and said, follow me. Yuji pursued her to a bar. Several ninja were either intoxicated or sleeping inside. No, muttered Inara with pineapple-like hair. The clothing were entirely covered in the faces. It seemed strange. Does it seem weird that I want one of those? Asked a white-haired man Yuji recognized as Haddock Kakashi. I'll never recover from what I've heard, a teen remarked, peering into the distance, and Yuji recognized him as an Akimichi clan member. You'll get better, Kakashi assured her. Where has the victim gone? Yuji inquired. He's over there, Tsunade replied, indicating an area that everyone was politely avoiding. Uzumaki Naruto was sleeping at a table, while his colleagues were conversing on the opposite side of the table, which was quite close. I can't believe they went in and extracted him. Well, he'd do the same for them, Tsunade said with a smile. He can be a great source of inspiration. I hope this never occurs again. Yuji nodded as he watched a blonde drape herself over a pale blank-faced teen, laughingly sobbing about preserving her virtue. That would be for the best.
This was the end of this series. If you wanna watch more series like this, subscribe to my channel. Till then, we weeb offline.